What is up, Waffle Gang? I do hope you are well. My name is Mark, and today we're checking out some more Am I the Butthole? If you'd like to skip that initial waffle, timestamps are in the description and along a timeline below. But if you are new here, please consider hitting that like, as always, that subscribe, and maybe that notification bell too. It all massively helps out our channel, and I'm forever grateful for you doing so. Before we do jump into the stories, just to let you know, we've also raised our own subreddit, which is r/Mark Narrations, where you can add your own nightmare neighbors, entitled people, whatever stories you've got on there, and they will be read out. There's rules on there, so have a look on the rules post before posting, and I'd love to read your stories as well. So please get involved there, and let's crack on with today's stories. Much love, guys. Now, our first post comes from Vivid Shopping 8200, titled, "Am I the arsehole for siding with my mum over my wife and humiliating my wife in front of my family? We had a family dinner tonight and it did not end well. My wife doesn't get along with my family. I do not allow any blatant disrespect, but I know they don't like her. I had to cut off my younger sister because how disrespectful she was, but we are still in contact with my mum, stepdad, and middle sister. My wife thinks that my mum is a picky eater. I really don't think that is fair. Growing up, I was exposed to a huge variety. We ate stuff from different cultures, we ate vegetables, my mum loves spicy food. She just doesn't like the type of food my wife grew up with, which usually involves barbecue sauce or thick gravy. To be clear, my mum will eat the foods without the sauces, but my wife won't accommodate her and says it isn't her job to coddle my mum. I kinda get where she is coming from, because my mum is used to getting what she wants and can be ridiculously stubborn. Last time they came over, like 4 months ago, my mum refused to eat. She said my wife could have separated her pieces of chicken before putting the barbecue sauce on, and she was just being a bitch. I did yell at my mum for the language, but I am sick of this. For tonight, I asked my wife to make anything not involving barbecue or gravy, and she refused. So I went out and got my mum salmon and vegetables from a local restaurant. When my wife saw it, she called me a piece of shit. No, that is not normal language for us. She told my mum if she wanted to eat it, she had to go outside. And then she got mad because my mum went in our pool. She ate on a float. We don't have chairs out there. My dad ended up cussing at us both, so I had to ask him to leave. When we went to get my mum, my wife tried to splash her and make the float tip. My mum got away and my wife ended up in tears. Needless to say, we will not do dinner at our house again, but I feel like such an arse. I think I was technically in the clear, but my wife cried and that hurts me deep. Edit, so many people asking why I don't cook. I'm not opposed to it, but I'm not allowed to cook. That is something my wife asks of her parents, and it makes her feel secure. Now, I can see this one going all sorts of different directions, so I want to try and get a couple of extra comments on this one. So we're going to start straight away with Left Steak 2534, who says, "Not the arsehole. Your wife is being unreasonable, and she's definitely the arsehole in this situation. I can see why your family doesn't like your wife if she's always been so unnecessarily unaccommodating." An Alternative Year 340 says, "Everyone sucks here, and to be clear, this is mostly you and your wife. Your wife is intentionally alienating your family. She sounds like a massive control freak. This is your home too, and yet you pretend you should have no say over how guests are treated. I really hope you never have children with this woman. I can't imagine the trauma they'd have." Status Pattern 7539 says, "You're the arsehole, but not because your wife cried. Your wife could have been the bigger person and put aside a piece of meat with no sauce like previously asked. She chose not to. She chose to continue to cook something she knew your mum wouldn't like. She then verbally abused you for providing something your mum can eat. She then banished your mum outside to eat, then tried to splash your mum. Your wife is a child and a huge part of the problem, and it's no wonder your family don't like her. Hell, I don't like her after reading this. Wife needs to grow up and stop making things your family don't like out of spite. You're the arsehole for letting your wife treat your family like this." Consistent Leopard 71 had "not the arsehole" and crossed it out to "and everyone sucks here." Your wife, on the other hand, is a major arsehole. Now, I can be petty, but your wife has taken petty to a whole other level. I don't know the history between your wife and your mother, but, and this is an understatement of the century, there are serious unresolved issues here. Therapy would be beneficial for all who are willing to attend. Good luck. Edit, change my judgment to everyone sucks here after rereading. You should have never let your wife force your mother to eat outside. And we have one more from Sassy Vaporon, who says, everyone sucks here. Look, I get it. My in-laws are not exactly fans of me, but I would never in my life escalate to this level. It's not that fucking hard to take a piece of chicken out and not put gravy or barbecue in it. Maybe I'm biased because I don't like gravy or barbecue, but it's not a big ask, and if you choose to host, you should accommodate your guests. But at the same time, why aren't you cooking instead of your wife, or going to a restaurant to eat if hosting is causing so many issues? You should have put your foot down, or looked for a way to solve this issue way before this. You've been sleeping at the wheel, man. Now, what do you guys think? There's every judgment there so far, apart from a no one's the arsehole here. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and we'll move on to the next story. And our next story comes from Hollandaise Crab Cake. Am I the arsehole for not answering work emails while on vacation, resulting in the loss of a client? My husband and I took a much needed vacation to the beach last week, and the entire week before we left, I sent emails around letting everyone know I'd be completely inaccessible for the week, so to come and see me for any work materials needed, files, etc. I gave everyone everything I knew or thought they'd need and left confident that everyone had prepared themselves, seeing as I gave them 8 days to prepare. When I returned, I found chaos in the office. Apparently, one of my colleagues had needed files for a particularly important client of ours and had not been able to find them in my office, and I never responded to calls or emails, as I warned them I wouldn't do. This co-worker knew they'd be handling this client and had 8 days and 12 hours a day to ask me for all pertinent files, and appears to have not. In any case, I was blamed because the client is technically mine and I am the supervisor of this co-worker. I contend that I am blameless because this co-worker had 8 days to collect all their files like other co-workers did, and they neglected to do so. No one seems to care about that. Am I the arsehole here? Now, I think there's going to be some differences in the way UK workplaces are handled versus US, and I don't know where this is. I'm assuming US because most of the stories are, but I might be totally wrong here. And I think the story could do with some more info, but I'm just going to base it off one of my previous jobs where I was the manager there and had people covering me several times a year when I was going on holidays and stuff like that. And whilst I can say you're not the arsehole because it's obviously just shitty business practice, you know, that someone above you isn't dealing with this and putting someone in your position to deal with your work, I think some of the responsibility would lie on you. And I'm basing this on, again, this market research company that I worked for where I was the manager, and it was up to me to make sure everyone who was going to be covering me knew what they had to deal with during that week, know what projects they had on, how they had to deal with them, and what they'd be doing. And I hate, because when I read the title of this one, am I the arsehole for not answering work emails while on vacation, resulting in the loss of a client? Automatically, my brain said not the arsehole, and I hate calling someone the arsehole for something that should be dealt with from superiors. They should be putting these people in your place and know what's going on anyway. So I find it difficult. So I think it would be a you're the arsehole. And again, just from what I'm experienced in when I was a manager, and I had to have everything in place for that person when they stepped into my shoes for that particular week. But I gotta say, I'm not confident with that verdict either. Let's check out some comments to see what they say first. With Christmas 850, who says, what happened is unfortunate, but you were clear that you would not be working during your time off. Not the arsehole. Your office needs a better system. What if you get hit by a bus one day or quit? It's a bad idea to have one employee have access to the vital files and clients for many reasons. Absolutely. CT says not the arsehole, but the buck stops at you. You told them and gave them time for them to get what was needed, and you tried to make sure people had what they needed prior to your vacay. Their failure shouldn't be thrust upon you when that was their fault, not you. However, your position puts you at the blunt end for when shit goes bad. You at least have a paper trail to show you did what you said in the email and asking them to get what was needed. If one person not being available can disrupt success enough that the person not physically there is blamed, then the structure of the company is not designed for success in the long term. Tyromania says in quotes, the client is technically mine and I'm the supervisor of this coworker. And then says, it's your coworker's fault, but it's your responsibility. You're the arsehole because you are management, and it is literally part of your job to ensure that everything is squared away with your client. Ownership of a client means that the buck stops with you. And one more from Bundle Beans, who says, and quotes, "I contend that I am blameless because this co-worker had 8 days to collect all their files, like their other co-workers did, and they neglected to do so. No one seems to care about that." And then says, "Your office sucks for not having a proper knowledge management system, but the way you're trying to pass the blame to your subordinate instead of working for a solution and trying to point out the systematic issues makes you the arsehole. Handing over everything that they might need to meet your client was your responsibility, not theirs. You should have been the one to predict what the client might need, not your subordinates, because they are your client. The fact that even you, who knows the client best, overlook something major means your subordinate is the one who's blameless, and she has even less of a relationship knowledge of the client than you do. Additionally, we don't even know if 8 days was enough notice for your subordinate to foresee everything she might need to meet with your client. She could have also been busy in those 8 days. Pointing out that her co-workers had everything they need for a different client is irrelevant. Furthermore, you are the supervisor. Good supervisors spot the mistakes of their reports and correct them before something of a major consequence happens. In your absence, your grand boss or assistant should have been there to do your duties. Bad supervisors throw their reports under the bus and act blameless. Now, what do you guys make of this one? As I said, I'm not confident in what I said. So let me know your thoughts and your experiences, if you have any relating to this, in the comments below, and we'll move on to another story. And our next story comes from Am I the Arsehole Baby Name Throw? Am I the arsehole for naming my daughter after my dead sister against my mum's wishes? Hey, am I the arsehole? I never thought I'd be posting here, but here I am. I'm 30 female and currently 5 months pregnant, and I recently learned that I'm having a girl. I also have a 3-year-old son who is named after his father. Now that we know we're having a girl, we're talking more in depth about names. My husband was dead set on a junior, so I didn't get to choose that name, and I'm enjoying thinking of possibilities. To complicate things, my family has a long-standing tradition of naming the firstborn daughter Araminta? I don't know if I got that right, I apologise. Or a similarly old-fashioned and uncommon mouthful type name. My mum, my grandma, both their grandmas and their grandmas all had Araminta. I am not the firstborn daughter, so my name is not Araminta. Stop making me say it. But my older sister died several years ago before she could pass along the name. While she was sick, we talked about the name and she said I should pass it down to my daughter, should I have one. Now the reality of the baby is looming. Everyone is highly opinionated. My dad thinks that I promised my sister, and I am therefore obligated to do as she asked. My mum is opposed because she thinks my sister was the last Araminta and that I can't rightfully pass down the name. My grandma just thinks that the name sucks and it will hold the baby back. Hubby agrees with grandma. Last night at dinner, my brother's wife suggested that we name the baby Ari, or some name that Ari can be a nickname for, since that was my sister's nickname. I loved this idea. But of course, everyone has an opinion. My dad thought it was a great compromise, but it turns out that my husband used to date a girl named Ariana, so is absolutely poisoned and can't be used. Cue the arguing between those two. My dad said I am the arsehole for not honouring my sister's wishes. My husband thinks I'm the arsehole because I didn't abandon the idea second he voiced his opposition. Never mind the fact that he got the junior he wanted. Mum thinks I am the arsehole for not caring that she's still grieving and doesn't want a baby Araminta when her baby is gone. I lost my temper. I told everyone that I was starting to really not care what anyone thinks. Stormed off. Had my sister-in-law take me and my son to Baskin Robbins, then went home. My husband had since apologised for not taking into consideration the significance of the name, my word to my sister, and how conflicted I felt. But he still thinks I'm the arsehole for not caring what he thinks. Grandma said I'm the arsehole, I didn't need to fly off the handle and disrespect my fragile mum. And my 3-year-old said, just name the baby Pudding. I feel generally terrible faced with the realisation that I'm going to hurt someone's feelings, and I'm really feeling like I might be the arsehole if I can't figure out how to reconcile all of this. Am I the arsehole? And there's an edit straight away which we'll cover, which says thank you all for your insights and kindness. After sleeping on it and eating a good breakfast on it, I feel much more balanced and assured. It is damned if I do, damned if I don't situation, and knowing my family after we've been through what we've been through, when the dust settles, I think they'll see that. This wasn't the first time this came up, but we haven't had a chance to really calmly talk about it, and I think that's our problem. My parents are grieving in two completely opposite ways. Dad clings, mum represses, and they're working on that themselves. I want to respect my mum, honour my sister, and give the baby a functional name, which the family name just isn't. My husband and I both love the suggestion to use the name as a middle name and got a good laugh that it genuinely didn't even occur to us in the heat of the moment. My son is actually hilarious, and what makes it even funnier is he's 100% serious, so he gets all offended if you laugh. My sunshine. All your great name ideas are adorable, but alas, the name isn't actually Araminta. To me in this one, you're not the arsehole, you're just stuck in the middle of an really awkward situation. I totally get that you don't want to disrespect your mum. It must hurt for your mum. She's grieving at the moment, so I totally get where she's coming from. I think they are, but again, this could come down to grief and the feelings that's going on at the moment. I think they are the arseholes for putting the pressure on you or pulling at you from each side. I don't think that's very fair on you. And at this moment, I would just name the baby what you want, completely different, and just go with that, what you choose. It's your baby in the end. But I totally understand why you'd want to respect your sister at the same time. It's an incredibly delicate situation with the family dynamics all around it. But I think you're also right in that you need to have a sit down as a family and a calm discussion on what you want to do. And I think the middle name would be a great compromise. And I can totally get why you didn't think of that in the heat of the moment too. It doesn't sound like a bad family in this to me. It just sounds like a really delicate situation and everyone's got their opinions, like OP said. Whether they're valid opinions or not, I don't know. But let's check out some of the comments to see what they say. And Tracy Min says, wait, you gave in to hubby to name your son a junior and you had no say in it. Now he's pissed that he doesn't get to choose the daughter's name. What the fuck? I think you should name her what you want. I just googled girls' names beginning with Ari and stop counting at 25. Use one of them or make up your own. Edit, your son is right. Pudding would be priceless. Calm Mess says, oof, I'd listen to the 3-year-old and just go with pudding at this point. And B4 Pangaea says, everyone sucks here except the 3-year-old. Lady Two Stepper says, not the arsehole for sure. Could you perhaps use Araminta as a middle name? You'd be honouring your sister's wish and can give a first name that you love. Remind hubby about Junior and pick the name. Pudding Araminta might work. And Pooch on Mum says, not the arsehole. Have you pointed out to your husband that you have no say in your son's name and now all of a sudden he has a say in naming the second child? What was his reason for being dead set on a junior? Tradition? Passing the name along? Ego? Whatever it is, use the same reasoning to get your point across. RNS1113 says, no one's an arsehole here. Everyone has valid options. The only slight arsehole is your husband, who apparently didn't care about your opinion when naming your first child, now wants you to care about his opinion. But honestly, everyone's feelings seem valid here, and you should probably talk to someone more professional than Reddit about your feelings. You shouldn't have this much guilt over choosing a child's name. It should be a fun activity. Now, what would you do if you was in OP's position? Taking into everyone's feelings. Do you have to take into everyone's feelings? I felt it was an incredibly delicate situation from reading this story. You know, a lot of grief and stuff going on. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below and your verdicts on all of today's stories. As always, I would love to hear them. If you do have a moment of your time, please click that like button below and maybe subscribe if you do have a moment as well. We post every day, mostly twice a day as well. I'm not going to say every single day because sometimes the odd day I miss the twice a day. As said at the very start of the video, we do have our own subreddit, r/Mark Narrations, where I would like to see your stories as well that we can share on the channel. You can create your own throwaway accounts as well. It's very easy to do. Just YouTube that, you'll find a way of doing it and share your stories there. Thank you so much for your love, support and time, and I will see you cheeky so-and-so, in the next one. Take care, guys. Much love.